The cast of this movie is very strong. It features not only Dan Stevens, the handsome prince in Beauty and the Beast, but also Al Pacino, the Godfather, who has won a grand slam of acting awards, such as the Oscars and the Emmys. He is a veritable superstar in the worldwide film industry. The two of them star as exorcist priests in this movie. It was expected that there would be a spark of emotion between them, but the fact is that they are at odds with each other throughout the whole process. What on earth causes their continuous disagreements? The leading man, Tag, is a handsome priest. He is usually in charge of conducting funerals in the monastery. On this day, the bishop came to him and showed him a psychiatric examination report. The owner of the report is a lady named Emma. The doctor said that there was nothing wrong with her after looking at it, but strangely, she let out a creepy scream. As soon as she saw the church, she seemed to be suffering a lot. This situation had lasted for many years. Obviously, there was something evil in her. Realizing that medical theory couldn't solve her problem, Emma decided to ask the priest to perform an exorcism ceremony for her. Tag became very flustered when he heard this. He asked if he was needed to help with this. The bishop said not to worry, and that he had already found another very good exorcist priest. Tag was completely confused when he heard this, since a suitable candidate had already been found. Why did the bishop come to him with the report now? The bishop said that because the exorcist had taken a fancy to this place and wanted to complete the exorcism here, he naturally needed to give Tag a heads up. But Tag thought that in a legal society, there was no such thing as a demon. It would be better for Emma to receive psychiatric treatment. But the bishop had made up his mind and asked Tag to make the arrangements. In the evening, Tag contacted the relevant personnel and said that Emma, who was being transported, was in a special condition, and the slightest disturbance might make her emotionally unstable, so he asked them to arrange a quiet car. Soon, Emma was sent to the monastery. Two nuns had been waiting outside for a long time, and they carefully took Emma in, and Tag found the exorcist priest, Theo. After a brief introduction, the two of them went to the abbot's office to discuss the relevant matters. The abbot said that Emma often made strange behaviors, but she still doubted that there was only a mental problem with her, and was afraid that the exorcism would stimulate her and make the situation worse. Theo said that he would pay attention to minimizing the interference, and as long as the three of them worked together, they would surely succeed. While they were talking, suddenly a little nun opened the door and said nervously that Emma had been refusing to eat. When she went to deliver food to her, Emma reacted very violently and let out a creepy howl, just like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, as if she wanted to tear the perpetrator to pieces, and the howl was full of pain and a sense of revenge. After hearing this, Theo asked if the food had been blessed. The little nun said she didn't know. Tag stepped forward and told her to change to other food, and just get the food used in the relief activities. Then Tag came to Emma's room. He found that the room was in a mess, and Emma was curled up on the chair with red-eyed. Tag softly introduced his identity as a priest, and picked up the things on the ground by the way. He also told her to have a rest early. Emma thanked him quickly and got into the bed. Tag was about to leave, but he stopped after walking only a short distance. He turned around and saw that the things he had just picked up had fallen to the ground again, but he didn't think much about it and left. Then Tag found Father Theo, and put forward his own opinion. He thought that exorcism restraint devices shouldn't be used to stimulate Emma. Perhaps there was nothing wrong with her mentally, but psychologically. But the other person said it had nothing to do with that. He had dealt with many similar cases before. They all turned to the church after being examined by doctors. Some did find problems after seeing a doctor. But Emma wasn't sick. Obviously, doctors can't save her. Tag still thought it shouldn't be risked. He said he had a doctor friend who could examine Emma when free. He hoped that no restraining devices would be used before that. Theo had no choice but to agree. He took the cross and went to check on Emma first. Theo found that she was in a very poor condition, dehydrated, malnourished, and suffering a lot. This situation was obviously the work of a demon at first sight. Demons are the most vicious, and like to entice people's minds. During the exorcism ceremony, they must trust each other unconditionally. Remember not to believe the demon's attempts to sow discord. Soon Emma was brought to the chair. Theo took Tag's advice, and didn't put any restraining devices on her. In simple terms, Emma wasn't tied up, With everything ready, the exorcism officially began. Theo took out the Bible and began to recite the scriptures.
Holy Mother of God, Holy Saint Gabriel, Saint...
Theo called out the names of some saints. In simple terms, it was about seeking help.
Your holy incarnation, by your birth.
The first exorcism came to an end. Theo asked the nun to help her onto the bed to rest. After finishing, the nun left first, but Tag didn't leave. He had never conducted an exorcism ceremony before, and was very curious about whether it worked, so he moved closer to watch carefully. The next day, Tag was about to go out when he saw a shocking scene. Emma was no longer so afraid of the sacred statues in the monastery. It seemed that the exorcism had indeed shown some effect. In the evening, the second exorcism ceremony was about to begin. The process was the same as before, repeating scriptures non-stop. Emma felt her head splitting, and her body kept twisting in pain as she listened. Just when the priest thought it was coming to an end, Emma's eyes suddenly turned cold. Sensing something was wrong, Theo turned around and continued reciting the scriptures. Emma actually came up to Tag, while he was still confused. She stuck out her tongue and licked his arm. The nun was so frightened that she hurried over to pull Emma away. This made Emma very angry.
Father?
No.
Please, no.
Listening to the nun's shrill screams, Emma not only didn't let go, but lifted her up by the hair to the mid-air. Tag and others were terrified and begged her to let go, but they only spoke without taking action. In the end, Emma tore off a piece of the nun's scalp, causing indelible harm to Tag's mind. Late at night, Tag found Theo and said that although an accident had happened tonight, he still hoped that no restraining devices would be used in the next exorcism. Theo thought he was too stubborn. He said he understood that Tag had never carried out such work before, but asked him to trust him. He had had many exorcism experiences before, and it was necessary to restrain Emma's movements with something, otherwise, the demon in her would still control her to do evil. After daybreak, Tag found the nun who was injured last night, and asked how she was doing. After all, he was somewhat to blame for this matter. If he hadn't prevented restraining Emma, the nun wouldn't have suffered this disaster, so Tag sincerely apologized to her. The nun was sobbing uncontrollably. Anyone would feel wronged in such a situation. In the evening, Emma's movements were restrained. She pleaded for help, saying she wouldn't hurt others, and hoped they wouldn't be so cruel to her. Although Tag felt compassion, he couldn't do anything. Then Theo kept praying to carry out the exorcism. Emma's reaction was very intense this time. Looking at Emma, who was rolling her eyes, the nun wanted to step forward but was stopped by Theo. Then Theo continued to pray, ordering the demon to obey. Those who knew better should quickly reveal their name. This is the drawback of Western-style exorcism. Without knowing the name, one can't do anything to the other person. Theo took out a cross and threatened the demon to cooperate with his work. The demon's loud roar left Tag completely stunned. In all his years of work, it was the first time he had seen such an uncontrollable situation. After tonight's ceremony ended, Tag found Theo and said that Emma was like a completely different person, as frightening as a sudden epileptic seizure, but the hospital report didn't mention that she had epilepsy or any other diseases. Theo was also very helpless. He told Tag that there are many things in this world that are beyond imagination. Not believing doesn't mean they don't exist. After saying that, he went back to sleep. The next day, there was another funeral that Tag needed to preside over, so he immediately put on his vestments. But for some reason during this time, the image of Emma, when she was possessed, kept appearing in his mind, making him restless. In the evening, another exorcism ceremony was to be held for Emma, because the demon inside her was truly too powerful, and refused to reveal its name no matter what. Out of fear, the nun secretly took a string of Buddha beads for protection. The demon was very displeased.
Remove the tablet!
Theo also said no one here had prayer beads. Right after he spoke, the nun pulled out a string. Theo had no choice but to ask her to take it out. He thought the demon would finally calm down and cooperate, but things didn't go as expected. The demon began to try breaking down Tag's mind. It asked about his deceased younger brother. Theo quickly pressed the cross against Emma's forehead, the demon howled in pain from the sting, and it seemed Emma regained control of her body. She looked very tormented. Theo told her not to hold back, to expel all the evil from her body. These exorcisms heavily shook Tag's worldview, especially when the demon brought up his brother. No one knew what had happened to his brother. The next day, Tag brought food to Emma. He noticed something was off with the diary on the table, and took it away, because the contents were unimaginable. It read, "If I bring in to you, what will you give me?" It sounded like a bargain. No one knew what it meant. The nun came to check on Emma, and was horrified to find her body covered in red patches. Theo thought this was normal, just the demon causing trouble. He prepared to continue the exorcism, but Tag couldn't bear to watch. He believed the exorcism was making things worse. Tag said his doctor friend would be available next week. They should wait for him to treat Emma. Theo said not to fall for the demon's temptation. It made Emma like this to stop the exorcism. If they truly stopped, Emma would be in real danger, and the demon would kill all of them afterward. But Tag kept persuading. Theo didn't want to hear his nonsense. He said if Tag couldn't stand it, he could leave, not to play the saint and just cause trouble. Then Theo started the exorcism again. The demon seized control of the body again. It said Satan would soon take Emma away. Theo wasn't fooled and told it to shut up. The demon angrily turned off all the lights, and collapsed the bed with all its might. Tag and the nun rushed to tighten the restraining devices. The nun struggled to pull back her arm, only to find her hand was already smashed beyond recognition. Tag spoke up again, shouting for everyone to get out. He also blamed Theo for harming Emma and the others, saying it was all Theo's fault. That Emma's condition had worsened. He said to stop the messy rituals, and just follow the doctor's advice for treatment. Theo doubted there was something wrong with his ears. He asked Tag if there was something wrong with his eyes, or if his brain had been crushed by a door. Emma's state was the work of a demon. Anyone could see it couldn't be explained by common sense. But Tag wouldn't listen. He believed Emma's condition had worsened because she was stimulated. Theo had been pretending to be mysterious all along. He couldn't stand by anymore, and was determined to protect Emma until the psychiatrist arrived. It seemed he was determined to be the troublemaker. Theo could hardly believe it. A Catholic priest actually didn't believe in demonic possession. If he believed in science so much, why be a priest? This was a complete betrayal of his faith.
Exactly what happened in Reading.
What are you talking about?
Theo revealed that when Emma was a child, he had performed an exorcism for her in Reading, but he was new to the profession at that time, and had received no training. When Theo found Emma possessed, he didn't know what to do, so he trusted others and handed Emma over to doctors. Later Emma wrote to him saying she had recovered. Theo was delighted. Little did he know, the demon had just lain dormant to bide its time, waiting for the perfect moment to take Emma's life. As for why the demon chose Emma, it was because she suffered too much to resist possession. The demon didn't just want to harm her. Now, to get back at those priests, it would do everything to make them abandon their faith in God. The next day, the nun intended to bring things to Emma, but was horrified to find the glass covered in blood handprints. Realizing something was wrong, she hurriedly pushed open the door. At the same time, Tag was carefully reviewing Emma's files, and found that her father had cheated with her aunt, and the aunt, to remove all obstacles, often added cursed substances to Emma's food, while feeling sorry for her experiences. Suddenly the nun walked in shouting that something was wrong, asking Tag to go to Emma's room. When Tag arrived, he found blood all over the floor, while Emma was naked and curled up in the corner, her body covered in scratches with no unharmed skin left. Just then, Theo rushed in and covered Emma with clothes, and the abbess also arrived. Seeing how things had turned out, she believed the exorcism couldn't continue. Now the nuns throughout the monastery had suffered psychological harm, and some had been seriously injured by Emma, so she said that if Emma wasn't cured within a week, it would be terminated no matter what. Theo heard this and said it wasn't easy to make a demon yield, but the abbess was in a difficult position. She couldn't let Emma continue harming the nuns, so she said Emma would be locked in the basement, because Emma was too dangerous. Tag's doctor friend arrived, and quickly examined Emma, saying she was just malnourished, and needed more rest and water. Tag asked him to check further. After all, Emma had done so many insane things, how could she be completely healthy? But the doctor said that was the reality. In the afternoon, Tag led the town's residents in a group prayer. He casually looked at the audience and was astonished to see Emma. He blinked in disbelief, and everything finally seemed normal. After the prayer ended, suddenly an old man shouted that there was evil in the church. His cows stopped lactating, and the chickens stopped laying eggs, which were his family's only source of income, so he begged the priest to expel the evil immediately. Tag didn't know what to say at the sight. Just then, the bishop approached and asked about Emma's condition. Tag rambled as he explained the situation. Seeing his panicked and broken state, the bishop told him to calm down, adding that he understood Tag had suffered greatly from his brother's death, but as the priest of this parish, Tag must not lose his composure no matter what. That night, Tag went to the basement and found Theo leading nuns in another exorcism. He intended to step forward and stop it, but the demon struck first with a shock. It blatantly lied in front of everyone, saying Tag wanted to be intimate with the nearby nun, and bringing up his brother, shouting that there was a rope nearby, suggesting he might as well go down to reunite with his brother who chose hell. Thinking of his brother's tragic death, Tag didn't want anyone to mention it again. He begged Theo to stop the ceremony. Theo naturally refused, and told him to go out and calm down first, while Theo continued the exorcism, relaxing his guard when Emma successfully vomited up the filth. Then Emma jumped onto the wall directly, saying Satan would surely make this girl fall into eternal damnation. Theo quickly invoked Jesus, and Emma fell into a coma instantly. In the middle of the night, Theo got up to drink water, but was frightened by the dark shadow at the door. After finishing the psychological attack, the dark shadow issued a threat, saying that if Theo continued to meddle in this matter, it would surely take his life. On the other side, Tag was tormented by a nightmare and suddenly woke up, wanting to go to the bathroom to urinate. Tag was so frightened that he almost had a heart attack, but luckily, when he turned his head again, Emma had disappeared. He thought he was hallucinating again. Tag breathed a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, the arm licked by Emma suddenly felt strange. Something was writhing wildly in his flesh. Tag hurriedly went to the bathroom to find a knife, wanting to see what was inside. He was so overwhelmed by the pain that he fainted. When he woke up again, it was already dawn. Tag felt like he was going crazy from the torment. He ran to seek help from Father Theo, saying that only he knew about his brother taking his own life. He didn't understand how Emma knew, or why she was tormenting him. Theo comforted him, saying this was exactly the demon's trick, to make people doubt God, and even the meaning of their own existence. To cheer Tag up, he had to share his own tragic experiences. He said he once had a sister, but at that time, plagues, cholera, smallpox, and polio broke out. In short, all were life-threatening diseases. And his sister didn't make it and went to God. Later, when fascism rose, his parents died in the turmoil. He was the only one left in the family, and despite all his suffering, he still didn't collapse. All suffering is a test from heaven, allowing people to forge themselves into their destined selves. This is the meaning of existence. Tag was deeply moved and finally realized how wrong his previous actions had been. Not only did he not help, but he also caused trouble, all because he failed to understand his faith. Seeing the boy still downcast, Theo served him some chicken soup for the soul, to boost his morale. He said Emma was tormented by the demon, and no parish was willing to take her in, thanks to the kind and broad-minded nuns of the monastery. And Tag, on the other side, Emma woke up from her coma. She shakily got out of bed to pour water, but felt that the demon inside her was still not exorcised. Helpless and desperate, she smashed the cup. Then Emma found Theo, hoping he would help put the letter she wrote on her mother's grave. Theo thought Emma should do it herself, but the other person thought his obsession was too deep, telling Theo not to waste time on her. The demon in her would never be driven away.
It's too deep.
These words didn't dissuade Theo. He would carry out the final exorcism ceremony tonight. No matter what happened, the ceremony had to end tonight. He was determined not to give the demon any time to recover. Then he told the nuns the precautions. With everything ready, Theo officially began the exorcism. The demon immediately attacked the most vulnerable part of everyone's heart. It imitated the voices of the deceased begging for help, making the nearby nun burst into tears. Thanks to Theo waking her up in time, the nun came to her senses and didn't step forward. Seeing its plan fail, the demon flew into a rage, and hurled a stream of swear words at the nun. Theo took out the cross and recited the scriptures. The demon couldn't bear it and fell into a coma. Everyone went out for a short break. When they came back, she was already gone. A nun said Emma seemed to have gone to the crypt. Upon hearing this, Theo asked the abbess to leave first. He gathered all the nuns and told them to hide in a room. Only a few of them would stay to find her. Later, everyone searched everywhere in the crypt, and finally found her with great difficulty, but they found she had no breath, and her pulse was very weak. After checking, Theo said something was blocking her airway, so he helped her up and slapped her back hard. Soon Emma vomited a large amount of filth, and her breathing went back to normal. Seeing that Emma had her body control snatched by the demon again, Theo quickly took out the Bible and began to recite. At the same time, the abbess was leading the nuns in tense anticipation of the result. Suddenly the lights in the room flickered eerily. Strange sounds also came from around them. They were so frightened that they didn't dare to breathe loudly. At this point, Theo was still reciting the scriptures without stopping. The demon felt a headache from listening, and struggled wildly to escape. Tag and the nun stepped forward to hold it down.
Depart, Jake. Depart, Mina.
After reciting countless names, Theo still didn't know which demon was inside Emma, but one thing Theo knew was that Emma's body couldn't hold on much longer. Not only that, the monastery began to shake violently, and numerous cracks appeared in the walls. The abbess and nuns quickly closed their eyes and prayed. On the other side, Theo stepped forward and shouted for Emma to hold on. Seeing that he couldn't spare energy to continue the exorcism, Tag finally prepared to take action. He tore off the Michael necklace around his neck, hoping it would help them survive the current disaster. With the blessing of faith, Tag chanted right away that they would capture Satan and all demons. Since they didn't know who it was, they would count every one of them.
Spotless Lamb, to depart this woman, and to depart.
Soon a column of black smoke emerged from Emma's body. Emma went back to calm, and the monastery stopped shaking. It seemed the exorcism had succeeded. Theo called Emma's name, urging her to wake up, saying they had finally driven the demon away. Then he collapsed on her, weeping bitterly. This story is adapted from a true event, but it remains controversial to this day. Some believe her abnormal behaviors stemmed from mental health issues, others argue it was the work of evil forces. But it's said that after the exorcism ceremony in 1982, Emma achieved a normal and peaceful life, and the two priests, Steiger and Theophilus, spent the rest of their lives adhering to their faith until their deaths. Their deeds were widely reported ever since. The film ends here. The film's prototype is the Emma Schmidt case, the most thoroughly documented exorcism in American records. But the early plot is too slow-paced. You can tell they tried to adopt a pseudo-documentary style, but it doesn't work well, even feeling boring at times. The exorcism methods are also too monotonous, just reciting scriptures repeatedly, without any innovation. No wonder some viewers complained that the film's budget was all spent on hiring big-name stars, but the pace and atmosphere gradually improved later on, especially when the male lead's faith wavered, which made the audience feel deeply indignant. Of course, this is normal, without going through trials. How can one see the rainbow? He needed to grow after all, and believing in science is the truth. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.